Alright folks, and welcome to the channel. And in today's video we're going to take a look at the Scheps Omni channel. So let's check this out. Right, this is the Scheps Omni channel. It's a channel strip style plugin, and in this video it's going to be sort of a review, if you will, but it's going to be more sort of showing you how I use it, where I use it, that sort of thing, and yeah, I will give you my thoughts about it. So it comes in two versions. You get a mono and a stereo version, and the only real difference is your faders. But you'll see that when I fetch the stereo version up. So like I say, this is the mono version. Now it can look quite intimidating to start off with, but it's really simple. So to start off with, you've got these 5 modules here. So you've got, you've got pre-gates. So they've called it a DS2. It's like a DS type strip. You've got a little bit of an EQ there, and then you've got a compressor. And when the strips or the modules, if you will, are not being used, they're greyed out. So when you start dialing anything in, it lights up. So in this pre-section, you've got some saturation. You can either have it odd, even, or heavy, and then you've got some low and high pass filters there. Then you can have varying different degrees of the angle of the filters. So 6 degrees is just a nice steady gentle curve, going all the way up to 18, which, yeah, it's not exactly what you'd call a brick wall curve, if you will, but it's sort of a lot more, it's not as gentle, if you will. And then you've got this little thump section here. You can either have extra 2 dB of thump or 4 dB, and that just gives you low end a bit more thump, if you will. And then after that, you've got a gate section, sort of a noise gate. Same again, you just dial your threshold in, set your floor where you want it to close, and tack and release. And as you can see, there's also some sidechain options on some of these modules as well. And then on this DS section, or DS2 they've called it, you've got a couple of different frequencies you can dial in. So say on vocals, you've got that sort of harsh top end, or you're trying to get the and dial down. You've got this listen feature here, and you just dial that in as you will. So you either got a high or a low shelf there, or sort of a narrow or a narrow and a bit more of a wide band there. And then you've just got this little threshold button again there, and then you just dial in the exact frequency that you wish to dial out. And you've got 2 of those, so you can have one at the higher end and one at a lower end. So if you've got, say, on bass or guitars, or perhaps even on a snare, where you've got that sort of really honky mid-range on snares that you want to just tame down a bit, or on guitars where you've got that sort of, if you will, that sort of Andy Sneap type trick, taking the sort of round about that sort of 95 to 250 band out there, sort of that type of trick, if you will. And same with bass guitars, if you want to sort of really sort of dial down that sort of really woofy, horrible, nasty low end on the bass, and just try and sort of keep it out of the way of the kick drums. That's another way of using it. And then you've got a 4-band EQ here, so you've got high, mid, tone and low, and on the high and the lows you've got a sort of couple of different shelves there, or you can use it as a parametric EQ. And then with the tones and the mids, you've either got a wide band, a narrow band, or parametric. And sort of what I tend to use the tone for is more sort of the lower mids, sort of dialing out some of those sort of nasty lower mids that can make you mixers sound a bit muddy, if you will, sort of dialing those down. And I use the mids for more sort of the upper mid range. And then here you've got a compressor. So you've got 3 styles of compressor. You've got a VCA, a FET, and an opt. And in more simplistic terms, if you will, what I've found is the VCA is more sort of brings out more of the top end of whatever you've got on and whatever you're compressing. The FET's more sort of a general gentle type of compression, and the opt is more sort of brings out the lower end a bit more. And then you just dial your threshold in as you see fit, and then that's the amount of compression. Dial it down to that, next to nothing, and all the way up to infinity. And then you just got attack and release options there. Output, you can have it down to -12 or +12, and then you've got a mix button there, which is pretty cool. And the good thing about all these, there's a little window there if you click, and it just brings it up a bit bigger. So then you don't always need these glasses. You're getting old, leave me alone. And then you've got your sort of output section here, and these dial there, you can have it either for the input, the output, or for your gain reduction. I tend to have it on gain reduction. That's just a personal thing. And like I say, these are your inputs and your output faders here. So once you've got your faders set in your main mix, you can use these faders to sort of lower or raise the volume of each individual fader without having to there you go, without having to touch your main faders. And then there's also this limiter on as well, which is pretty cool. It does come with an absolute ton of presets. I have used 1 or 2. I'll show you one I've got in at the moment in a short while. But yeah, I mainly tend to just dial in my own tones. So yeah, I will perhaps use them every now and again as a bass, sort of bass setting, if you will, and then just sort of dial in the tones myself. So another cool thing, these, if you will, the sort of like modules, you can actually move them about. So if you want your compression right at the beginning, you put your compression there, and they're all interchangeable, which I think is pretty cool. So you can just dial in whatever you want and wherever you want. And with this being a Waves plugin, if you've got other plugins by Wave, you can actually add them directly into this if you want. If you don't want to have a ton of other plugins in your chain, you can just bang them in here, and all you do is just press your plus button, and then it just brings up the list of all the other Waves plugins that you have. So say I wanted to add a little bit extra EQ, I could just bang one of the SSL channels in there, or the SSL EQ. So just bang that in, just dial the EQ in as you wish, brings it up, and then it's there in your chain, and then you can either put that where you want, like you can with all the other modules, which I think is pretty cool. So as you can see, I've got it dialed in here on some of the drums. Now, I don't use it on every mix, but yeah, it does get used quite a lot. So at the minute, we've got it in on kick, snares, and the toms. So I'll just play you this track, and first one I've got dialed in here is the kick drum, and you see I've just got a little bit of saturation in there. I've got it on the heavy filter, just got a low pass filter in there, and I've dialed in a bit of thump as well, bit of EQ and some compression and a bit of a limiter. So like I say, I'll just play a little bit of this track, and then I'll just pop in the plugin in and out so you can hear what it's doing. that's what it's doing with the kick drum, and we'll have a look at the snare next. Right, so this is what I've got dialed in for the snare, and you see I've got a little bit more saturation dialed in. I've got it on the odd, I don't know, pass filters, a little bit of thump dialed in there. I have got the gate in there just to stamp down on those transitions on the snare. Bit of EQ dialed in as well, and some compression. Doing the same again. We'll just see what that's doing. And that's what it's doing on snares. So on toms, what I'll do is I'll get some saturation and the high and the low pass filters set in there, and then I'll copy that across to all the tom tracks. As you can see on this track, I didn't have any thump on the toms, but sometimes I will dial some in there. But as you can see, all I've got in is the sort of the EQ, and just a bit of compression. So I'll play this track again, and I'll highlight all of those, and then I'll just bring them in and out. So that's what it sounds like on toms. Another place where I sometimes have it in on, very rarely I might put it on the individual bass tracks, but I tend to, if I'm going to use it on bass, I tend to have it on the bass bus itself. Now on this track, I dialed in some saturation, I don't know, pass filters, did add a bit of thump in there, but like a bit of thump on bass. Did dial in the bit of a gate in there as well. As I was saying, with the bass you can just sort of dial in that sort of muddy low end, and that was about 73 hertz, just sort of as that kick drum's just kicking in there, if you will. Kick drum kicking in, you can have that, shows. Sort of stamping down on there, bit of a EQ in there, and just some compression. And as you can see, because this is the stereo version, we have got slightly different output there. So you've got dual faders in there, and you can have them in stereo or mono. But obviously with this being a bus track, I've got it in stereo. So we'll see what this is doing to the bass. Right, so that's what it sounds like on bass, and I think it works really well for bass. I do use it quite a lot on bass, not always, but yeah, it's usually in there on my bass bus channel, and yeah, I think it sounds really good for bass. Now, I sometimes use this on vocals as well. On this track there was no vocal, so it's not on there, but somewhere else I do use it is in my vocal chain for the YouTube videos. So what you're hearing right now, it's in there. And this is one of the times where I do use a preset. Now this preset is called Vocal 3 Present. So it's like, if you will, a sort of radio presenter or podcast type present preset. And I didn't change anything on this. I was quite happy how it sounds. Like, you guys let me know what it sounds like. So as you can hear, this is what it sounds like with it switched on. And this is what it sounds like with it switched off. So hopefully you can hear a little bit of difference. When I do the editing of this video, I will find out myself. But yeah, we'll get that switched back on. So yeah, that's the Scheps Omni channel, where and how I use it in different parts of the mix. I've been using this for a couple of years now, and I'm quite happy with it. I know some people not been able to get used to it, but it's one of them things, so different strokes for different folks. But yeah, I quite like it. As with a lot of the Waves plugins, this I think is on sale at the moment. And yeah, so I'll leave a link down in the description to the Waves website where you can get this from, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And that's all for this video. I will catch you in the next one. Right folks, I hope you enjoyed that video. You can follow me on social media, and you can get my music online. And if you want to support the channel, there's Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal links. They're all down in the description. Click up here to subscribe and click the link down there for videos that you may not have seen. Keep it loud and keep it heavy.